We're going to be doing an overview of RaceDay Scoring version 4 for today's timers. I'll be giving you just an update as to what we put into this release, a little bit of history about RaceDay Scoring, how far we've come with it, and a little sneak peek at some things that are on the horizon. So let's get started. If anyone does have any questions, first off, feel free to use the GoToWebinar questions panel. I do have a couple of folks on the back end, including James Harris and a few others, to assist with any questions that you do have as we go through this today. Before we get started, though, I do want to send out a big thank you to all of our timers out there and our customers in general. You are the ones that give us all of the good ideas that we implement and put into the software. So your great feedback we highly value, and it's helped us guide this product over the course of 6 years to where it is today. So we wouldn't be where we are without your input, and as always, continue to give it to us and let us know how you're using RaceDay Scoring. It gives us ideas on how we can improve it and things that are bothering you so that we can make it better for everyone. We're all in this together. So the agenda today, I'll be doing a quick history of RaceDay Scoring, so I thought it'd be a good time to do a little bit of a retrospective. And then why is this release such a big deal? I'm going to jump into an overview of some of the features, and then we're going to go into questions. So a brief history of RaceDay Scoring. The summer of 2017 was when we actually had our first alpha release of the product, and it was first available to the public. So we actually started it, I think it was January 2017, and our first release was that summer. So very, very basic stuff in this one, but we could score a race with it. Could do it only manually, I believe, at that point. Next, in spring of 2018, we put it out into beta. It was more of an incremental release, getting it up to snuff and seeing how people were using the alpha, making improvements. And then finally, in early 2019 was our first version, the first production release of RaceDay Scoring. So our V2 was our first big feature update. This was done in winter 2019. We added corrals, aggregate team scoring, relay team scoring, custom top finishers, and printing. In 2020, we had COVID, so we didn't have any major RaceDay Scoring releases. We did have incremental updates, but a lot of our priorities internally for development shifted towards virtual races and RaceJoy Run Anywhere. So in spring 2021, we refocused back towards RaceDay Scoring and had a big update to support cross-country and a lot of features around cross-country. So that was a big one in 2021. And in 2022, we actually didn't do a version 4 release. Basically, we typically will not increment the first number unless we are doing a major overhaul of either database or some big part of the software. And in 2022, it was all incremental updates, really nice incremental updates. Some things like custom report sorting, backup to cloud, lap race scoring, and renewing scoring files. A lot of really nice features. But these were all incremental. There's no major underlying changes for these. So let's talk about version 4. Why is it such a big deal? You've probably been getting emails about it, and you're here checking it out, webinar. It's really important for 3 main reasons. Improved performance, more flexible read management, and an improved user experience. Those are the general areas that this release is going to impact. So it's the result of about 8 or 9 months project that has completely rewriting our read processing code from the ground up. Many of you have used our announcer system, the leaderboard that, or the announcers that came out a little while ago. I can't recall exactly, maybe 6 months or so. And basically what that did was it was a test platform for a whole new processing system of reads. And our intention was, let's see if we can make it work pretty well with just the announcer window. And if that ends up working pretty well, we can go ahead and move it over and replace everything in RaceDay Scoring. So basically, we rewrote how we process reads in a whole new code base. And the reason we did this, about 30,000 lines of code. We wanted to improve performance of read processing for large races, and we wanted to make the system more capable of adjusting reads and filters on the fly without having to reprocess all of the reads over again with each change. This was something that we just, from the very beginning, this product was written in 2017 by a developer who's a great developer, but he's not on our team anymore. He's the head CTO of RunSignup. He's got really important stuff to work on. So we kind of inherited this code, and at this point we decided, we need to just rewrite how we do read processing, because we could just see how troublesome it was for large events and for new timers who had to recalculate their raw reads all the time. We wanted to eliminate that need. So those are the main reasons. And so for those big races, it's a pretty significant improvement. For smaller events, you will see that it is faster to process the reads, but you won't see it being that significant. However, a byproduct of this work that was done was to improve performance, is that it now actually automatically applies changes made to filters to the raw read data already in the system. So prior to this, if you had to change your timing location to say, okay, actually I need to start collecting finish times after 8:30 a.m., you'd have to recalculate raw reads because you would have to reapply that new filter change. With this new system, there's no need to do that. It just automatically impacts your read filtering as soon as you save it. So there's no real need to recalculate these raw reads whenever you change filters or start times or things like this. All this happens for you automatically. So even new timers and timers of smaller events will see a significant user experience impact with this new update. In addition, we've improved how we handle participant information, and you may have noticed this when you look at a participant record in RaceDay Scoring. There's now a tab for scoring data and a tab for registration data. This makes it easier to find the information you need quickly and easily as you're scoring a race. Before, all of it was on one screen, and it was a little bit hard to find what you were looking for, and it was also a little bit easy to accidentally change something about someone's information when all you're trying to do is look up their results or get to their reads. So the way that we've done it, now if you click a name in RaceDay Scoring, it'll bring you to their results view. It'll show you information like, okay, I need to disqualify them or change their event. And you can do that all from the scoring screen. And then if you had to adjust their name or something else like that, you could bounce over to the registration tab. We found that most people, as they're actually using the software on RaceDay, really are just trying to quickly verify reads or finishing places or looking at their raw reads when they're trying to click someone's name. So this should help out all events. All right, so now we're going to go into a feature overview of the latest release to RaceDay Scoring. So we put this out can't recall if it was a week or 2 weeks ago now. We've had a few updates since then, but I'm going to go through some of the updates that we put into V4, and then we'll for some other stuff. So if you don't know, we do have, we've moved over our release notes to the RunSignup blog, or the RunSignup page, info.runsignup.com. And if you subscribe to our blog, you'll get these notifications. So most importantly, the raw reads, filtering, and scoring updates. Major upgrades to read filtering to significantly improve performance. The way that this works, essentially, is that the old system, there's two pieces of data for every read. There was a raw read and a scored read. And we would have to say that, okay, this read either is going to be scored or it's not going to be scored. When it's scored, it creates a copy of itself, and then that copy is actually used in reports. So that was the way that the original system was designed, and we made the decision that it was unnecessary to keep around duplicate copies, essentially, of reads, and instead, let's just say your raw read happens to be selected and it's going to be scored. So what that means is that, prior to this update, you'd have to recalculate, and when you recalculated, it would delete all the copies and regenerate all the copies. It was very system heavy. It required a lot of system resources. So now we do not have that extra copy. It saves memory when you're actually scoring a race, and improves the performance because you don't have to go through the process of deleting and re-adding. It makes a ton of database calls. So you'll see a big performance improvement there. Again, like I said before, we don't have to recalculate raw reads whenever the start times or filters change. This is a big one. We have added the ability to mark selected raw reads as ignored. Because we now have this better linking between raw reads and scored reads because they're the same thing, you can really easily, we had the ability to easily say we want to change the way that the raw reads can be managed to give you more control. So in RaceDay Scoring, what you can see now is that you go into raw reads, you've got checkboxes in raw reads like you used to, but you have some more options here. You can swap position, you can delete reads, you can toggle ignored reads, and you can force selected reads. So let's say I wanted to look at all the reads for this person here, and you wanted to change which reads were used. So I could say that instead of taking this read here, I wanted to take this read here. So I'll just say, select this read as a finish, this read is my start, and I'm going to force these reads to be selected. And now basically it just ignores everything and selects this one, and the scoring is done immediately. No need to go back and recalculate or wait a couple of seconds, it just happens. So that's some of the nice new things that we've added here. So you can ignore things manually, you can force them manually. It's just a whole lot better. And there's a little GIF I had here where I can just show you going through. You can just change which reads you want to use or not use. A whole lot easier before, where you used to have to delete reads you don't want instead of marking reads that you do want. So a lot of flexibility for managing your raw reads. In addition, you can now come into a raw read and click the little edit icon and change it. So you couldn't do this before, but you can now. You can say, instead of this time being 7:30:03:46, you could adjust the time itself the read occurred if you needed to. Additionally, you can change the actual bib that the read was for. So some people have systems that, like a backup system, that marks an unknown read as 0. They didn't see who was crossing the finish line, but they know it was someone. So it would come into the system as 0, and RaceDay Scoring wouldn't be able to map that to anyone. Well, now you can come in and say, okay, this 0 that came in at 8:45, they came over to me and told me who they were, so I plugged in their bib number. So you can come in, you can actually change the bib number now. Next, we've added timing location column to the raw reads view. So you'll see another column here that'll tell you which location this read was used for. So instead of it just showing you the device name, which can sometimes be unclear depending on what kind of system you have, we also show you the location that this read was used for. Moving on, we had a change to the way that we handle reads before gun start times. So now all reads are going to be ignored if they occur prior to the gun start time. Now there's a setting where you can say, I don't want that to happen, but by default, this is what will happen. And then if the event is collecting chip start times, all reads before that chip start time for each individual will also be ignored. So when I say if a event is collecting chip start times, what I mean is, this is a lap race, but if this start timing location is mapped, they're collecting start reads. If it says not a time start, it means they're not collecting start reads. So this basically prevents issues with people accidentally getting reads before they should. Specifically, like, let's say it's a race that has like a time trial start and someone happened to get a finish read before their chip start for the time trial, we would use it as long as it's after the gun start time, which for a time trial doesn't really matter. Now it's just preventing a lot of issues like that with read order. On the scored event, we have changed this setting that used to be filter read before start read, and it's now replaced with this new setting called require chip start time. This is a setting that is useful sometimes if you want to be really restrictive with your events. If you want to say, hey, if you missed your start, you don't show up in results whatsoever, you want to be really strict about it, you can do this. This basically says, I don't care what happens on the rest of the course, if they got splits and finishes. If they didn't get a start time, they don't get any other reads at all. Everything will be ignored until they get a chip start. So sometimes useful for some people, but it kind of depends. You may or may not want to look into using this. Next, we just adjusted a few things. There's this existing setting that has been around for a very long time called filter previous segments on the segment setup. And what it would do is basically all of your segments are placed in order by the cumulative distance. So a triathlon or like a marathon with many different locations throughout and segments throughout, it will order them based on the cumulative distance for each segment. And then it will say, hey, if a read happens to complete an earlier segment after this one, ignore it. So what this is useful for are events that maybe have a lollipop type course where it's an out and back, and you might have the chance of someone missing a read going out. Before, if you didn't set this setting on, it could pick up a read at an earlier location, thinking it's a read 1 or occurrence 1 when it actually is an occurrence 2. If you set the setting on, it will say, hey, I know that this segment is earlier, so don't consider this to be an occurrence 1. It should be an occurrence 2. So if you have an out and back multi-segment loop course or multi-segment course, take a look at this setting on your segments. It might help you out. In addition to this, for non-multi-segment races and for the entire race segment for any other kind of event, we just renamed it because that same setting is very useful for a different reason. What you can use this for is to ignore chip start reads that occur after the finish read. So think about it this way. It's really helpful if you're doing, let's say, a stair climb event where you want to, they start at the bottom of the building and they finish at the top of the building. And then they come back down in the elevator, and then maybe they happen to cross by the start again. The default is to always accept reads until the end of the day or whenever the last start goes out. But if you have an open start-finish area, you have people going up and down this building all day, the system's going to say, hey, always pick the latest start time, right? Well, that's not going to work if they actually did get a finish time. So this setting, if you use it for an entire race segment, is going to really save you if you use RaceDay Scoring for things like a stair climb event or any event where it's an open start-finish line and people might have the opportunity to get a second read after their finish. Second read at the start after the finish, that is. Okay, moving on. Participant add and update, edit updates. So I told you about this before. You can now access these tabs to switch between scoring data and registration data. When you click into a participant, it brings you the scoring data up front. And we've moved things around a little bit and made it a little bit easier to read, especially for smaller screens. So we're constantly trying to improve the user experience. This was one way for us to make it a little better right now. Another thing that was included in this update was we changed the way that we handle super and sub events. So on RunSignup, there's this functionality where you can allow a registration event to be a super event, and the participants of that super event can be distributed into any number of other events. So this is a series, and they got races all throughout the year, and this participant here happens to be a part of all of these different registration events because it's one registration that's distributed out into all of the other events that are in this series. So what you'll see if you click into a participant who is one of these super event participants, these little toggles on the left here, and that allows you to change the view. So I'm looking at now the Masterman 40 plus 10, 12, but I could change this and look at a different day, the results from a different day for this person. So it's just a better way of handling super events and sub events in RaceDay Scoring. And a few other little things. Yeah, making participant add mode a little bit nicer when you are doing quick entry mode. So you'll see here, quick entry, we try to make as simple as possible, allowing you to tab through all of the fields and quickly add any information. We automatically select the registration event dropdown and allow you to tab through the items in the list. We try to make this as fast as possible. We know data entry is not the most fun thing, and you need to get through it quick, so that's that. Another one I didn't talk about too much in our slides was an external reference ID. This is really nice if you are using RaceDay Scoring with an event that's using another registration provider besides RunSignup. What this allows you to do is say, I'm going to keep track of this external registration ID or any other reference ID when you import your participant data. So a lot of times, if you're working with a race director, they'll send you a spreadsheet a week out, and then they'll send you an updated spreadsheet, 3 days before, and you'll want to make updates to your existing data that you already imported into RaceDay Scoring. Well, if you have the ability to, if that system has an ID of any sort that's unique, you can import that ID, and then the next time you import that spreadsheet, we will, as long as you map the external reference ID, recognize that, hey, this registration ID already exists in the database, so I will update that record with any new information, and if it doesn't exist, it'll add that person. So this allows you to better manage those races that aren't using RunSignup for registration if you're getting those periodic spreadsheet updates from your race directors. Really handy. And finally, you may have seen this already. And if you have, please update your license. So we just added a note here. If your license is about to expire, we'll let you know and give you a link to update it. We don't cut you off on this. We used to ask that you do update, whenever you have a chance. We don't think it's right to cut off service to timers. We know how critical it is for your business in order to get things done. We don't want to do that. But we can see if you're posting a bunch of results under an expired license, and might give you a phone call. And a few other small things, just updated the user interface a bit to work better with smaller screens, but pretty minor. And a bunch of little bug fixes. And that's mostly it for this one. We did recently put out another update that had some nice features for cross-country. So I'm just going to go through that quick, and then we'll move on. So this version 4.0.8 included a feature that we've been wanting to add for quite a while for cross-country, dual meet reports. So now you can create dual meet scoring reports for any cross-country race, and that will automatically generate standings for dual meets where each team is scored against each other head-to-head. And then each pair of teams will have its own section with a header like Team A versus Team B. And we'll show a team detail section within each, so it'll tell you all the members of the team that scored for each team and give you the breakdown of their points and their scores and so on. In addition, we've added the ability to swap positions in route reads. It's very common in cross-country to go back to your video or finish link system for review if you have a tight finish. We all know chip systems are great, but for cross-country, it's the finish order is determined by your chest, and you're usually not wearing your chips on your chest for cross-country. So what this does is it allows you to take two raw reads and swap them. Effectively, if they're a really tight finish, you just nudge in the seconds and milliseconds around a little bit to make their finish positions swap. So that's what you would do if you went back to your video review and determined that the finish order of a couple of people need to be swapped. You go in, select the two reads, and click the button to swap them. A few improvements to the raw read view to allow you to view only ignored or only locked reads. We have updated a few things with the way that we do PDF and printing. We had to replace our PDF exporter because it was no longer being supported by the developers, and so we just replaced it with our print to PDF functionality. and I'll talk about this later, but we will be working on updating our print output formatting to make that a little bit nicer. It's not where we want it to be quite yet. And a few other small things that are not super critical. But so this is the major updates that have been released for version 4. We're super excited about this update, and we hope you are too. So let's keep going. So what's next for RaceDay Scoring? One of the big things that we want to work on is this idea of relative time filtering. So we have, since this update allows us to automatically adjust the raw read selection when filters change, what we'd like to look into doing is seeing if we can have a way to define time filters as an offset from an individual start time. So let's say instead of setting all of my filters on my locations, I just want to say it's a 5K, I'm going to accept start reads within 3 minutes of the gun start and finish reads after 13 minutes. And then if start time changes, you no longer need to even think about changing your timing location filters. The system will just look at each individual and say, okay, this person, their assigned start was 9 a.m. and I'll accept start reads for them until 9:03 and then finish reads after 9:13. And if it changes, everything shifts. So we're looking into seeing how we can do this. We'd really like to make this something possible for our timers so that you have even less to do on race day. Tier 2 cross-country functionality is something we're looking at currently. The ability to basically say that the first 7 numbers are going to be considered varsity or something, tier 1, whatever we end up calling it, and the rest are JV or tier 2. Typically, this is used to separate cross-country races on the fly. So you have some events where they just want to run everybody together and they determine based on the finish order who is varsity and who is JV. This isn't typical, but there are some events that do this. And so Race Director did support it, so we need to add it into RaceDay Scoring. A print formatting overhaul. So this is something that, again, like I said, we really want to work on, and we understand and recognize that the print formatting isn't great in RaceDay Scoring, and we're going to be working on that. We additionally want to make it more flexible. So first of all, we want to try and make it look a little bit nicer, but also give you some more ability to change things on the fly, custom-wise. So you could change the font size and bolding and things like this. So we're definitely looking into that. One really interesting and fun thing that we're working on in the near future is a RaceJoy integration. This is something that's really exciting for us. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be integrating RaceJoy with RaceDay Scoring so that you could send notifications from chip data in RaceDay Scoring to RaceJoy users as in-app notifications. So instead of sending like text and emails, we are going to allow you to say, send your chip data from RaceDay Scoring to RaceJoy users directly. This will be really cool. A lot of users are familiar with in-app notifications these days. They could be a whole lot more flexible than text and email. And there's not going to be any issue of people getting it marked as spam or something like that. In addition, we're going to be able to allow you to manage and monitor your RaceJoy map from within RaceDay Scoring. So if you're a heavy RaceJoy user and RaceDay Scoring user, you could have one spot to manage things on RaceDay. You could just flip to a different tab in RaceDay Scoring, and there's your RaceJoy map and dashboard. You can adjust your points. You can do course edits. You can send out RaceJoy alerts right from within RaceDay Scoring. So this is something that we're super excited about. Next, lap race updates. We've had a catalog of lap race updates we've been wanting to get to, but have been pushed off because of the significant changes that needed to be done for version 4. A few things here: better clock time race support for lap races, auto-completing a final segment for races where you have multiple segments within a lap, lap race leaderboards, which is a heavily requested feature, and a distance adjustment. So you could say you want to import a bunch of distance adjustments for a portion of your runners. These are some things that we know are highly looked after or requested from us. So they're on our list and we want to get to them. Finally, unknown read management is a feature that Race Director does that RaceDay Scoring still doesn't do quite yet. We want to have a way so that unknown runners show up in results if you want them to. So it could say, as soon as an unknown runner crosses the finish, they'll actually show up as if they were a runner, and they'll say unknown participant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever the bib number was. That'll make it easier for you to catch when you have an unknown read, and we'll also do some things in here to say, maybe put up a toast or a pop-up message if an unknown read happens, or add other alerts so that you can be more indicating, or you can be indicated when an unknown read happens. Next, we're working currently on a big project to support series scoring within RaceDay Scoring and RunSignup series. So the idea here is we're working on right now the ability to, within one event, calculate series point calculations. So there's all these custom series points that are out there that we have cataloged that customers of Race Director and RaceDay Scoring have given to us, and they're all very interesting and very complicated sometimes methods to calculate series points within an event. And it's all about, like, okay, how many seconds back from the leader of your gender were you times 1,000 or something. So we're building out a way for users to create their own custom series point calculations, and we'll be able to ship a few ones that we find really popular. And this will allow us to then basically go on to the next thing, which will be on RunSignup. We are going to update the series scoring functionality that they have right now. They do a really good job of mapping registrations between different events, and they'll be able to use this custom series point that is calculated in RaceDay Scoring as the basis for their series standings. So this will solve the problem of RaceDay Scoring not being able to link different races. We're going to use RunSignup's existing series scoring platform and improve it by a few things, first off, because there are some improvements we want to make there anyway, so that you'll have a great experience using RaceDay Scoring to generate those series points, and RunSignup to tie it all together and give you a nice series standings dashboard. And next, a hotly requested feature is real-time award count report. This is something that I know is really important for a lot of people. It's basically how many runners on course could potentially win an award. It's all about answering that question. Can we do awards yet? Can we do awards yet? Because you know what that's like. You're on site and the race director is bothering you. Can we do awards yet? So this would be a report that'll show you, I've got X people registered, Y got a chip start, and Z have finished. So therefore, there could be 3 people on course in this age group. This is going to be something that will be a little complicated, but it's something that we think would be really nice for our users to do. And more. There's like 800 requests to get out there that we want to get to eventually, and someday we will. And again, always give us feedback. Tell us how you're using RaceDay Scoring, and we'll always log it. And as many of you know, if I put your name on an issue, I will follow up. Even if it's 3 years later, I will let you know that we implemented your feature that you really wanted. So let us know. We keep track of everything. Every customer is super important to us. So moving on, just, how can you learn more if you're interested in RaceDay Scoring? If you came here not really knowing much about it, or if you want to learn more about using RaceDay Scoring, help.racedayScoring.com. Great resource. Got a lot of guides on getting started with RaceDay Scoring. Best thing you can do, honestly, open up the software, play around with it. If you have a question, use the Get Help button. We'll get back to you really quick. Also, this is how you would get support on weekends. We got a support team on staff on the weekends, ready and able to help you out if you have issues on site. Next, if you want a one-on-one, if you need to talk through a scenario, or you want like a kind of just a jumping off point, and then you need someone to walk you through everything, Chris McDonald is our in-house RaceDay expert. He's a timer himself. He uses RaceDay Scoring every weekend to time events. So if you have a best practices question, or you just really need someone to talk something through, go ahead and use this link here, calendly.com/rcracedaytools, and you can schedule a training session with Chris. So we really recommend if you schedule a session, have like a specific scenario picked out or topics to discuss beforehand. Typically, what the best thing you can do if you're a new timer just looking into race day scoring, take an old race. If you have if you're a MyLapse timer and you have a timing and scoring event file ready to go, have that ready. And what you can do is have Chris walk you through how to build out the race and race day scoring and play your reads through from timing and scoring. So this is a great way to get started. All right, and that is all for today. So any questions that I should bring up, James?
Yeah, Avery, that feature that we're working on, that's whole thing about based on the reads that we've gotten, how many left out there? Do you want to speak to that and what we're planning on doing for that, and especially in different types of events? It's the whole thing, how many people.
Yeah, so the idea is basically going to be you have your age group and top finisher categories, and we know how many award winners that you've marked. So what we want to do is say, okay, I'm going to be presenting through 5 per age group. And then basically I know that I had 20 people registered in this category, and I had, let's say, 5 people who actually started, or let's say 10 people actually started the race. So they got a chip start or whatever. And next I see I've got 3 people who have finished. So that means I have a potential 7 people on course who could fill out that category or whatever. And basically it's going to say, no, you could potentially have 2 people left in this category. You got to wait until they come through. It's really handy for those older categories where you got 1 70, 79 female who's finished, but you had 5 people actually start. It's getting late, but hey, you might still end up having 2 people come in, so you want to hold off on your age group awards presentations until you get everybody.
And then building on that would be how many bikes are still out on the bike segment. We could do stats like that on that element also.
Yeah, that one is possible. It's that one was, I think we had talked about, and it's a little complicated because you could potentially have 100 segments, and it might get exhausting for the system to keep track of every single segment for every single category for every single person. So that was one that we got to think about, but it's possible.
Yeah, great. The other thing I just wanted to highlight real quick, again, this filter rechange of the scored reads and having that in one source is really the ground floor for us in terms of how to stream this data to other things. And so this was a really important change. For those timers out there that are using text messaging through RunSignup, which is a great service, very little bandwidth needed on your part to be able to set up those splits and have that data immediately go out to RunSignup, you're going to see even faster performance for that. We're really setting ourselves up to stream that data, not only for text messaging, but also for the push notifications, as Avery talked about. So again, for those timers that are kind of doing those types of events where you really want to provide for real-time streaming, RaceDay Scoring is really your middleware. And now with the filter change that we've done, we've really made that much more efficient to get that data out to the text messaging service, and also what we're going to be doing later with RaceJoin. And then Avery, if you could look, Rob had a couple questions about this whole unknown reads and how, our plans for, I know you have some things planned for how we're going to handle unknown reads and all. You might want to address that question.
Yeah, sure. So it's basically going to be doing what Race Director does. So you have to set a default division for anyone who comes in who's unknown. It's called, scored event or event in RaceDay Scoring. So you may want to have a separate report built for a scored event that's called unknowns, or you could say everybody who's unknown is in the 5K because it's only a 5K event. And then it'll basically, you got to tell a system should your automatically, built participants be male or female. I don't think we actually have to set a gender, but it's basically going to work the same way. You basically come in and it's going to create a record for that read, and you can see it in reports, and then you can update the read to the actual person after the fact. You can update their information if you needed to, or it could come through the sync. If you check them in on the check-in app, and their bib number is now assigned. So it'll all work pretty flawlessly.
Again, in terms of getting information out of the system. We do have autosave set up, so that's the way we really recommend. You do things like getting HTML out to some server and all, setting up autosaves, and using more like cloud-based systems for sharing that data. I don't think we're going to be doing a lot of work with FTP. That's kind of an older way to kind of move files around. I would recommend that you work with your web servers and different service providers and just provide a way to, get those files shared and get them there. And that's probably an autosave that you would want to play around with and set up.
Yeah, Pavel, you may want to look into, we have a way to autosave all of our reports in all different types. You can autosave HTML files in the update when, reads come in automatically, so you don't have to do anything. So if you have a way to, I'm not sure, there might be ways to set up a FTP system to look at a folder and see if there's changes and push up those changes automatically. Or not sure exactly what you're doing with FTP, but there'd be better solutions. You could use Dropbox or Google Drive if you're just trying to host it somewhere. There's probably better options these days than FTP, but it kind of depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely a lot of those systems that we work on are using file sharing cloud systems, and we're just pushing stuff around that the web servers are actually looking at.
Cool. A lot of great questions.
Don't see anything else for you, Avery. I think we covered most of it, but you might want to take a look through
them. All right, so that's all for today. Thanks again, everyone. I really appreciate you joining. And wanted to say, we are planning soon a timer tour this winter, so we might be seeing some of you this winter. There'll be details coming eventually on that, exactly where we're going and everything, but I'm hoping that this winter I'll be able to see some of you in person again for the first time in a little while. So thanks again, and we'll be talking to you all soon.
Okay, well, I think I see some new people to the channel, so thank you all for joining us. Brian and I are here to say goodbye and thank you for watching. So goodbye and thank you for watching. If you want to see more though, you can subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell and all, that way you get alerted when we post new videos. And if you'd like to click on the thumbs up button and let us know you enjoy this kind of content, we'd be very grateful for that, wouldn't we? You know it! Thanks, Brian. Always got my back.